Coach, I'm sorry, but I got a little wordy when I started writing this up, so I'll be up here for a few minutes. Snyder, by God, Texas. Everybody say it. 1, 2, 3.
Snyder, by God, Texas.
And then Coach had a way of, Coach, where you from? Snyder, by God, Texas. Right? I can remember in early 2003 as a quarterback for the Tampa Bay Storm, I asked Coach Marcum where he's from in a casual conversation, and he said it just like that. Snyder, by God, Texas. With pride. For months, I honestly thought, guys, that there was a place called Snyder, by God. For the life of me, I couldn't figure out where that was. And I was afraid to ask, right? As a player for Coach. You didn't know him that well. It wasn't until another player asked him the same question, and he fell for it. Where's Snyder, by God? Coach turned to me and said, P.O., can you believe this guy thinks there's a place called Snyder, by God? I said, yeah, Coach, that guy's crazy. I first became aware of Coach Marcum in 1995 when I entered the Arena Football League. I was a quarterback for the Orlando Predators. I didn't know anything about Coach Marcum or the AFL, but I quickly realized that Tampa Bay was a team, and when you played them, it was always a physical game. And they had this intense coach, an intimidating guy on the sideline, up and down the walls, getting on the officials. I broke 3 different bones over the tenure of my career with the Predators, and they were all against the Tampa Bay Storm. Their football team transcended the personality of their coach, intense and talented and always physical. We played against one another in 2 Arena Bowls. The first was in 1995, where the Storm beat us in front of a still standing record of 25,000 plus people in the Thunderdome in St. Pete. Then in 1998, we were able to beat the Storm, but I tell you what, I had trouble getting out of bed for the next 3 days. I remember Coach Marcum's interview after his team's loss. It was simple. He said, we shall return. Little did I know that 5 years later, I would make that return with the enemy, the guy you love to hate, but also the man you had the utmost respect for, Tim Marcum. In 2003, I was an aging quarterback with a bad knee, without a team to play for. The Toronto franchise had folded, and Coach Marcum's loyal and trusted and faithful assistant, Dave Ewert, called upon me to join the Tampa Bay Storm, the enemy of the Orlando Predators. The 2003 season was a memorable one. One of the highlights took place in Memphis, Tennessee. See, we played a game against the Indiana Firebirds, and we had a unique deal that it was an 11 o'clock start, kind of early. And Dave Ewert will tell you he was there, but our flight wasn't until about 8:30 at night. And we had a really good football team in 2003, and a bunch of grizzled, old veteran guys. And as Coach always said, a few outlaws, got a few outlaws. Got a few outlaws on the football team. But we all loved each other, and we went up and beat Indiana pretty good. The itinerary says after the game we get dressed, and to kill time, we already checked out the hotel, we're going to go to Golden Corral, right? P.O., Golden Corral, let's go. So we get on the bus, we've got hours to kill. Coach and Dave are up front talking, I could tell. Coach Marcum stands up, turns around to us. All right, boys. We can go to Golden Corral, or we give you a per diem, we'll go to the airport. Let's go to the airport. We got about 6 hours. A bunch of football players that love each other with 6 hours to kill in the Indianapolis airport with Coach Marcum. Well, we all walk in. 22 guys, a couple coaches, sometime in the spring, a bunch of outlaws, and where do we all go? Go to the bar, right? So we go to the Fridays, and we all sit down, and because we love each other, and we're having a great season, we have a little fun, adult beverages, we get on the plane, loud on the plane. Coach stands up on the plane. It's nighttime now. It's a commercial flight. All you guys in the storm, be quiet. It sounded a little bit differently said. We land in Memphis. This is 2003. Pretty close to 9/11 and all that. We all get on our connecting flight at Memphis, and Dave and I and John Kaleo were sitting there, and the rest of our teammates aren't getting on the plane. Gary Compton calls me in a panic. P.O., stay on the plane. We're all going to jail. We're all going to jail. What? We're all going to jail. They're not letting us on the plane. The police come on the plane and start plucking people off the plane. And they're profiling people. If you look like a football player, you came off. So they walked right by me and John Kaleo. Right, John? Just stand there and walk out. So John and I were going to be able to probably make that flight home. John and I looked at each other and we said, if we're going to jail, we're all going to jail together. We got off the plane, and I walk off that ramp. And you know how Coach... Five police. I walk up that ramp, I walk out, Coach is in heavy dialogue with these 5 police. And all I heard was, Coach, you got 2 options. You can leave the airport right now because you're not flying out today, or you all can go to jail. Coach went, okay. Coach threw us all in cabs. Make long story short, went to the best Western in Memphis and not the best neighborhood. We got up the next morning. Coach put down and called Woody. God bless him. Called Woody. Got a little trouble. Woody, no problem. We flew home the next day. We ended up winning the championship that year. And I wouldn't recommend bonding that way and building team chemistry, but it sure worked. I was a backup quarterback on that football team. I approached each week preparing mentally to play. But being around Coach Marcum made me realize I wanted to coach in this league. I took countless notes every day, filling many legal pads of Coach Marcum's knowledge, and I still have today, and a lot of them I have Marcumisms. We won the Arena Bowl championship together in 2003. A lot of I think some of my teammates are here. I know some of them are. I had to come off the bench to relieve an injured John Kaleo early in the 3rd quarter, and from then on our relationship was sealed forever. You see, when you help Coach win, and more importantly, remain loyal to him, he would do anything for you. His loyalty to me and my family is something that's hard to explain to people that just know him on the surface. There were countless times we were in the office, and former players would call, I'm in a bind, Coach. Can you help me? He always did. Even when he knew he probably shouldn't. That was Coach. That was who he was, and a lot of people don't know that. In 2005, I started getting to the end of my career as a player. Coach Marcum called me in his office following training camp and said, P.O., I want you to be a player coach. I want you to be the offensive coordinator. Okay. I didn't see it at the time, but Coach Marcum had a plan for me in my future. You see, it turned out Coach got in a little trouble with Commissioner Baker over some salary cap issues, and he would be missing a few games, take a couple games off. I remember we hosted Georgia Force during his absence, and I'm in pregame in the locker room, anxiously going over my call sheet, player coach, calling the ball plays for Coach. And my wife sends me a picture of Coach from Nukes. Right? Most of you know Nukes is the old bar restaurant across from the arena. There he was in all of his glory, Coach Marcum in a Rastafarian disguise. Dreadlocks, sunglasses, the hat, classic. He was one of a kind. After Coach was reinstated, he came to work and I said, "Welcome back, Coach." He said, "Yeah, Lynn gave me a kiss goodbye this morning and before I left for work, she said, try to stay out of trouble today, buddy, okay?" There were many lessons learned as a young coach under Coach Marcum. Early on in my tenure as an assistant, I remember venting to Coach about a player that kept repeating mistakes no matter what coaching methods I used. He calmly listened to my complaints and concerns. Then he leaned forward from his desk and said with a quizzical look, "P.O., is his head harder than yours?" The truth sunk in quickly. I nodded my head slowly and pursed my lips. I realized that I'd just been taught a valuable lesson about what it truly means to be a coach. It was my responsibility to find ways to teach and motivate players to help them achieve their true potential. That was classic Coach Marcum. He had the ability to drive a point home in the most minimal way. I'm sure by the look on my face, Coach knew I understood the lesson I just learned. But Coach wasn't done with me, though. He also had the ability to immediately lighten the mood while teaching me another lesson. He stood up from his desk and said, and I won't use the exact words, "P.O., listen, at the end of the day, we just got to make sure that our dumb MFers are smarter than their dumb MFers." Then he looked at his watch and said, "Now come on, boy, let's go to Hoopers." With Coach's mentoring, my career path led to being a head coach in the NFL. Including myself, I can count 12 former assistants or players under Coach Marcum that eventually went on to be head coaches in the AFL or the AF2, and many high school head coaches, even an NFL head coach, Jay Gruden. In 2012, I was hired by the New Orleans Voodoo to be their head coach. Coach Marcum was out of football, ball coach, but no players to coach up. I called him and it felt kind of weird, but I asked him to be my assistant. It was a tough call to make, as you can imagine. When you ask a Hall of Famer and the winningest coach in the AFL to be your assistant coach, I didn't know how he'd react. He called me back the next day and said, "P.O., I'm in. I'm going to ride for the brand." Didn't really understand what ride for the brand meant, but he used that term a lot, especially that year with me. The brand was a ranch's trademark and represents pride and duty and stewardship while inspiring loyalty, dedication, and cowboy camaraderie. When you rode for the brand, it meant that you had signed on for the mission, that you had committed, that you were a dedicated team player. If you weren't, then you had no business being on the ranch's payroll. So full circle it went. The once aging quarterback he had helped so many years before, now back together. We spent every day together for the 2012 season. Every day after afternoon meetings, I'd go over his apartment, and there were 2 couches in there. And I would go over and plop myself down on one couch and put my feet up, prone, and he would be like my psychiatrist. And we would talk about football, him with his leg crossed on the couch with his iPad. We'd talk about football, talk about life, and of course, the History Channel would always be on. I learned a lot about Coach. I learned a lot about his father. Life in Snyder by God, Texas. His career playing at Murray College. His early days as a high school coach. His cherished days at Ranger Junior College. His lifelong buddies, Carlos, Tracy, Basie, Eddie Bowell, and many others. He talked about his daughter's mid-season show and his grandchildren with pride. And I never saw a happier guy than when he met Lynn in 2003. Coach received a lot of media attention in New Orleans. He always redirected credit to me and gave me praise. He didn't have to do that, but he did. We spent a lot of time together in 2012, so our relationship really came full circle. When you're around Coach, you're around arena football royalty. I think everyone felt that way. Whenever I spent time with Coach off the field, you could be anywhere. In the airport, at lunch, anywhere in the United States, and it seemed like someone would always come up and say, "Hey, Coach." He may not know that person, but he would give them 3 to 5 minutes, and that person would walk away thinking they're friends now. He was very, very gracious. That might surprise some people that don't know him. He's such an intense and competitive guy, but he was very gracious to people and very engaging. Being around greatness, you hope that some of it rubs off on you. I could never be Coach Marcum, but I learned a lot from him. I think in day-to-day operations, there's not a day that goes by in the season as head coach now that I don't think, what would Coach do in this situation with this player? With this off-the-field situation, this in-game decision, I always go back to what he did. When you think about it that way, that says a lot about him. His football legacy is sitting down with Perry Moss and Mouse Davis and creating this game essentially. In the mid-'80s, the USFL went away, and he was out of coaching, got a phone call from Mouse Davis. "You want to coach some arena ball?" "What the heck is that?" Coach said. And Mouse said, "We're going to play football in an arena." They got a concept for this game. Coach said, "Sure, I'm in." They all went and grabbed some football players and a ball and lined up the field and hashed through it. He's one of the founding builders of the game schematically that we play today. And he's the winningest coach to do it. He loved the game, and he gave up a lot of other opportunities to coach football at the highest of levels to stick with this game and give his life to it. And inevitably, he did. He gave his life to the game. Tim Marcum is the winningest coach in the AFL with 211 wins. He has the most postseason victories in history with 27. He has 7 Arena Bowl championships and appeared in 10. That's nearly half of his existence of our league. 2-time Coach of the Year, member of the AFL Hall of Fame, and the only coach in AFL history to coach 3 different teams to AFL championships. During those many conversations with Coach in his apartment, we would talk about the Tampa Bay Storm quite a bit. The successes, the mistakes, some regret, and how things could have been different. It was a difficult subject for him. He loved the Tampa Bay Storm. While I stand here speaking to you on behalf of Coach, it's time to restore Tim Marcum's legacy in Tampa Bay. As an organization, you just cannot celebrate your past without honoring how you got there. Coach Marcum's 15 years as the head coach is a major part of the history of the Tampa Bay Storm. And I would like to take this time to plead to the powers that be to honor his football legacy. Rehang his 200-win banner in the Tampa Bay Times Forum. Coach, thank you on behalf of thousands of players you coach. The coaches you helped out along the way, as Batesy said. For the impact you made on the AFL. So to my coach, mentor, friend, I love you, buddy. I know you and Woody are putting together a team as we speak to go win some more championships. Coach, keep riding for the brand. And I promise to do the same. Thank you.